Let's maybe turn our attention to the back of the grid. We knew that there might not be some performance based on the missing of developmental and performance tests in the winter, but what the heck has happened to McLaren? I don't know which one would rather take this, but I'll leave it to you. Raise your hand who wants to take what is McLaren right now.
I think it is exactly what you said. They set themselves targets. So we talked about Mercedes earlier, setting themselves targets, hitting them, then realizing they weren't enough. McLaren didn't even hit their targets, and they're in a position now where not only is the performance not there, the reliability wasn't there. Both their cars suffered reliability issues. Oscar Piastri on his debut, we didn't really get to see what he was capable of because I think it was by lap 15, the car had refused to change gears and he had to come into the pits, and they tried to solve it by changing the steering wheel, which is a very old school way of resetting a Formula One car, and that didn't work. And then Lando Norris's car had issues with pneumatic pressure, so he made, I can't remember how many pit stops, 4 or 5 in the race. So six, really.
Six
wow.
stops. Yeah, the patented 6-stopper.
Yeah, just to
Some strategy.
top up the gas on that car to keep the engine ticking over. So maybe that was partly a Mercedes issue. They run Mercedes engines, but still, it's not good. I suppose some of the positives, well, like when the car was running, it wasn't that slow. But the thing is, Norris always had new tires on his cars because he'd always just made a pit stop. I think they were one of the only teams to use the medium compound tire, which no one wanted to use, but mainly because they were running out of tires to throw at the car every time it came in. So it was really became a test session by that point. Like what can we learn by just being out there? Even if we have to top up the car with gas each time it comes in. So, yeah, I don't know where they go from here, other than that they've been saying from the very start of the season that they're relying on an upgrade around Baku time to set some of it right. But it's a long way from where they want to be. And then when you look at what Aston Martin's achieved, well, that's what McLaren wanted to do this year. That's exactly where they were targeting to be close to that top 3. And if the top 3 slipped up, part of that top 3 for whatever it would become. And they're miles off. So it's a tough situation and pretty tricky one for the 2 drivers as well, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri.
Well, Nate, in your article, you have McLaren will be lucky to finish top 6. Think about that. They were edged out by Alpine a season ago to finish 5th. They wanted to make strides. Clearly, they haven't. If you're Lando Norris, who we all know is an incredibly capable driver, what's going through your mind?
Well, I don't know what's going on in Lando's mind at the moment, because he continually insists, he's like, I'm fine here, I'm happy here. I think we spoke about it before the test. There was this kind of rumor going around that he had punched the side of the garage during testing. He and the team were very upset. That was Will Buxton from F1 TV who said that. And they completely denied that had happened. But I don't know what Will saw. He might have seen that. I don't know. But yeah, I think Lando is going to be the thing that gives them the biggest headache this year. It's not going to be the car. It's not going to be Piastri. I think Piastri is probably, in a weird way, is being helped by all of this stuff, because he can just turn around and be like, well, the car is terrible. So anything he's doing in his rookie season, he's got that easy excuse. But if you're Lando right now, you've got to be looking around and thinking, how have I tied myself down here? You've probably been told time and time again, look, when we get our wind tunnel online, when we get all these things done that we've been looking to do, then we'll be back at the front. And then you turn around, you see Aston Martin do what they've done in the space of, less than 12 months. You look and think, well, hang on, why can't we do that? If you've ever, Laurence and I are very lucky, we've both been to the McLaren headquarters. Laurence mentioned there that they're just finishing off the Silverstone headquarters for Aston Martin. McLaren's headquarters is like, I think they used it to film part of the Avengers, I'm pretty sure. Like it's so state of the art that
is that true? That makes so much sense. Sorry.
Yeah, no, so parts of it are when I forget which Avengers movie it's in, and I might have completely made this up. Sometimes I make up facts out of nowhere, but I'm pretty sure they used.
I hope this is a true fact.
They used aerial shots for something, but that's the kind of building we're talking about. Laurence, I think, is about to debunk my fact.
No, I don't know about the Avengers. I haven't watched all of them in that much detail, but it's definitely in Andor, the new Star Wars.
Yes,
that Andor. It features a number of times of that. Inside, it's one of the space stations, and you go in there, and it is like a space station. It is a remarkable building. But it's actually always been a building which those that have worked inside have kind of criticized, because just as I was saying earlier, how Aston Martin have created these big open spaces for their design office to exist. One of the criticisms of this McLaren place is a beautiful building with this beautiful long kind of boulevard, they call it, where they keep all the old cars. But to actually work in there and to go to another department, sometimes you have to walk 10 minutes to get an answer to something, which,
Interesting.
or you have to send an email rather than go face to face. So as impressive as it is, there's always been a question of how much it was a vanity project with Ron Dennis in charge at the time, and how much it was actually a fully functioning F1 factory. Because actually, if you go to some of the best, or the teams that make the best cars, Red Bull, Mercedes, so on, the factories are actually fairly bland. They're just operational places where things get done, not places where you film Star Wars or the Avengers or whatever else. But anyway, back to Nate's point. Yeah, I mean, they do have a great facility. They do have, this presentation of this team, which is really very special, but they're not delivering. And actually, to go back to the overreaction question, we'll be lucky to finish in top 6. I think they will be, because they're going to have to beat, you've got the obvious ones, the obvious 4 now, which is Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, Aston Martin, and then you got Alpine there as well, and then Alfa Romeo, getting in amongst it. Aston Martin last year didn't finish in the top 6, so I think they're really going to have to turn it around to be able to do it.
So I don't know if Dave, our producer, has been looking at this in the background. I think I've got this wrong about the Avengers. I'm pretty sure they filmed something there, because there's.
I believed you. That made sense to me.
Yeah,
so...
I think what I've done is I've seen an Andor post. I think maybe it sounds like we're just massively plugging Disney Disney things at this point, doesn't it? But I think but either way, Laurence made the great point. It's so futuristic. It could be used in Andor. So I hope people aren't flocking to watch their Avengers to try and spot the empty.
Confirming it was used in Andor.
Okay, there you go.
Not Marvel.
I cannot find anything that says it was used in Marvel.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Well, there you go. So so again, this shows you, Lawrence's predictions might not have been perfect at the start of the season, but his memory about which buildings were used for Star Wars products are.
I'll take that. That's all I can get right now.
But just quickly to go back to the point about the McLaren headquarters, the one that was used for Andor and not for Avengers. It's kind of an odd building when you think about McLaren's recent history, because in the boulevard, as they call it, there's all these, they have basically the entire history of the McLaren team out there. And I don't think that you could go to Red Bull or Mercedes, who have been dominating for the past, 10, 12 years, whatever it is. You wouldn't find the same kind of tribute to themselves there. Red Bull have this huge trophy cabinet when they go in. They do have their cars out there, but it does not equate to what McLaren has done on track, both in terms of what they've delivered, but also it's kind of this great celebration of the McLaren team. And you just think you can't have this factory sat here when you guys are struggling so much in Formula One. So yeah, I've always, the more I've gone there for season launches, you look at it and you're like, this place is, it just does not fit at all with the team that we're reporting about all the time.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.